Hello, everyone. I'm John Paul, John K. Paul on Twitter, GitHub, and the rest of the interwebs. I'm the CTO here at InRhythm, and me and 5 members of my team were able to go to the Empire Node conference last Friday. We had a lot of fun, learned a ton, and I would like to go through with you today some of the highlights from my experiences at the conference and the great talks and speakers that we were able to learn from and interact with. Starting off there, we had an amazing keynote by Rod Vag, who's on Node Core committer. I forget all of the other epithets to his name, but he gave our keynote around Node 4, the versions, the governance of Node now that IO and Node have merged back together, as well as sort of the history behind IO, which I know a little bit from the Twitterverse and the random blog post that came up around it, but he knows much more closely as actually having lived it around what I took away most saliently is that the fact that we jumped from Node 0.12 to Node 4.0, and did we forget that there was 1, 2, and 3 in between there? No, actually, because of the way the number system worked in IO and in Node, merging back together, taking on the version number 4 made complete sense, and I was very interested and excited to learn that everyone here actually knew how to count. Additionally, he talked about the governance and structure of the Node that the Node Foundation is putting into place around more predictable and periodic releases of Node. For example, having a 6-month release schedule, making sure that we are continuing to keep up to date with V8's release schedule, and there's actually some great blog posts that he recommended and just answers to questions that he recommended that go through in a lot of detail what we can expect as consumers of the Node platform right now. Additionally, so I'll add some links to the bottom of this. There's a lot more to go through with respect to where Node is going and how, from an organizational perspective, that open source project is going to be managed. Additionally, so Ben Newman, formerly at Facebook, but now at Meteor, has tons of different amazing things to his name, had a great talk around import and export syntax, but how we got there and what we actually started to talk about and dig into was, first of all, the quite wild landscape that we've had in JavaScript for a long time around modules. There's CommonJS, AMD, UMD. Before that, there were globals. That's when I was doing a lot of this. Namespaces were all of the rage, and how other programming languages, of course, come built in with module systems, and these are not arguments that we have to have. And the idea about something winning or not winning is just not necessarily in our mind. He went through some great examples about circular dependencies, how sometimes you might start off in a particular CommonJS project in Node with circular dependencies that are all resolved correctly because of how that code was written, but with slight changes and over the course of time through refactoring and feature additions. It's very easy to see. At some point, one line might be moved over another line, or something might be moved from a function outside of a function to be defined elsewhere. And suddenly, because of circular dependencies in CommonJS, which CommonJS does support circular dependencies, but with some slight changes, suddenly your code no longer works. And he went through some great examples of how import and export syntax in ES6 resolves a lot of those issues, as well as had a lot of organizational conversations and discussions around why removing the arguments around module systems in JavaScript will be so helpful, both from a library author perspective and a consumer perspective in user land. Just a quick roundup of all the other great talks. An amazing talk by Lynn Clark on module systems, as well as things like Browserify and Webpack tools that can create one single bundle out of many different JavaScript files that also handles minification and everything. The key takeaway for me there is something that she talked about that wasn't actually related to purely the technology, but also the human side, which is module shaming, something that gratefully I think is coming down in prevalence, but seems to have a bit of popularity that I don't understand and will not myself ever participate in. And I want to convey her very straightforward understanding around, don't worry if every module is not 4 lines. The goals of modularity are in making sure that there is cohesion and that we are reducing coupling. As long as there is cohesion and you are reducing coupling, you fit into the modular framework of that Node provides for very easily. You don't have to go so far as to make sure that you have three-line modules that happen to go onto NPM separately. And then rounding this up, some great talks by Cass Perch and Suze Hinton about hardware around things that I myself know very little about, but I'm very excited to learn the amazing things you can do to create wearables yourself, to be able to create real radios, things that I did as a kid with little kits. You can now actually wire up to the internet or connect with USB. Amazing things there that I have very little delved into, and I'm excited to in the future. Additionally, William Blankenship of NodeSource gave a talk about Docker and containers. Another one of those pieces of the JavaScript landscape that are really supporting us to quickly iterate and build products that I'm just sort of recently getting into, and me and my team here at InRhythm. Gratefully, there are some engineers that know Docker like the back of their hand that I'm able to easily ask questions to, since I'm the person who basically just started the tutorial. Gratefully, Docker also has some great interactive tutorials for us. And then lastly, rounding out the whole day, something that I'm very interested in, Justin Searles gave a very rapid fire and very thought-provoking talk about dependencies and how in NPM we all as Node developers and JavaScript developers have a tendency to very easily go out there, take a module and put it into your code. And he provoked our thoughts to make sure we're thinking about someone that is actually code we are responsible for. Even though we don't know it, we did not read every line, we definitely did not write it. It is something that we should still be taking ownership for, because especially at InRhythm, where we are focused on building products as a JavaScript consultancy, our focus should never go away from the fact that we are owning these products that we are building, and we take responsibility for their both maintainability as well as actual production support. And Justin's point to all of us was, even though it is really easy and it's great to be able to stand on those shoulders of those giants, in addition to that, we always have to be accountable for what code it is we are so easily pulling in from outside. So I'm very excited to continue to do these for you. Please reach out to me here at InRhythm if there are any questions you have, comments you have. You can definitely post them down below me somewhere in YouTube. And I am excited to keep going. We'll have another one of these next week. Have a great day.